Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report. Prime time Thursday night. It's the Super Show. Welcome to the show. Joining us, and all of you joining us all over the world on Fight TV, our tremendous broadcast partner, along with streaming across our social media channels, including YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and also that's all of them, actually. So we are interactive. We want to hear what you have to say. We want to see your comments. And we want to share them live and discuss them live as we go into the Super Show tonight, live Thursday, August 13th, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just simply comment whether you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Simply comment at us at PWR Show, and we will see those comments pop up here on the dashboard, and we will select the relevant ones and even some irrelevant ones to include on screen. And speaking of irrelevant, I'd like to introduce to you my broadcast partner for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. He is the one, the very only, David Octavius at Tiberius, the alleged backyard, knockout, straight edge, hardcore, one-time Hall of Famer hero. David, you are on time this week, and Shane is being, he's suffering from the conspiracy theory set forth by Bill Gates.
Oh, there's no question about it. I mean, I'm always on time. Right? Well, I mean,
was that an Aaliyah song?
Yeah. Wait, no. It was Ashanti. Ashanti.
On time.
That was Ashanti.
Not the same person?
Yeah. No, of course not.
They both know R. Kelly.
I'm sure they both did, and have known R.
I said
Kelly.
do, not do, did. David, thank you for being on time. Hurricane Helms going to be joining us in just a moment here as, again, his windows
well,
are updating.
Do you know where he is, to be quite honest? That whole new Manscaped promo we got going where promo code PWR gets you 20% off. I think he's manscaping right now.
Have you shaved your W balls yet?
I just got.
I'd ask you that on air, by the way.
No. Listen, I got the care package, but now I'm reading the instruction manual because want to make sure I'm going to do that right. You know what I mean?
Manscaped.com, promo code PWR, save 20%. And you know what? Your W balls will never be happier. You know what that's from, don't you? You remember? W balls, W balls, W balls.
No, I don't remember.
Is it the first Snoop album? It was one of those albums like The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, where it was
that was a long time ago.
It was a continuous track, if you will, where they had like dialogue between the songs to sort of fill in, tell a story.
Wasn't the first Snoop album like in 94, 93, 94?
It feels about 93-ish, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was, 4 years old. You were 22.
16? I was 16.
Really?
No.
When you were 17, did you do what people told you?
I was 22 in 94. I was born in 72, baby.
Why are we talking so much about you?
Well, it's your favorite topic,
Wait,
obviously.
You were born during the Nixon administration?
Of course I was.
But you're not a crook.
No, I'm a superhero, remember?
But we have a crook again. So we are waiting for Hurricane Helms to join us. David Hero, how has your week been? I'm glad you're able to make it on time this week. It's great to be here live on Fight TV and across our social media platforms. But what the heck have you been up to aside from manscaping this week?
It's been a busy week. I mean, I've been watching Impact, NXT, AEW, all the good things wrestling. I'm having landscaping done. They're pouring a patio right now outside of the home.
Or you're getting manscaped and landscaped?
I'm getting everything done.
There won't be a bush left in the hero world.
Well, if you look at my backyard, absolutely not. It's all getting torn down by these bobcats they got back there.
We want to welcome those of you joining us live across our social media channels. Just to name a few: James Weo, David Stronach, Brandon Westbrook on YouTube. Thank you guys for joining us. And if you're watching across any of our socials, please go ahead and just comment. You don't do anything special. All you have to do is comment on the forum by which you're watching, and the comments will pop in here to Senior Intern Cal, who will flag them for use or non-use on the live broadcast. So, David Hero.
And hey, Senior Intern Cal makes his debut Friday night on the YT8 network in OVW Wrestling.
And that is something I want to talk about later because that is a major, major thing. And speaking of major things, we have a major big deal, a huge star, the star of the show, now joining us. Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Shane Hurricane Helms.
I like it. I like it. You're almost there. You're almost there. You're getting there. You're getting closer and closer every week to what I like.
I'm trying to do right by you, and a little bit of an Arsenio Hall reference. I never heard anybody, right?
Now looking at myself on camera, boy, I got to trim the. I got to get rid of this little goatee, boy. It's getting a little too long. I got my little bit of mean the merciless going on right now.
No, I was gonna say easy Anvil. Easy there, Anvil.
Yeah, it is a little bit of Anvil.
Shane, thanks for joining us. I'm sorry Bill Gates perpetrated upon you.
That's it. Every time you see that Windows update, it's Buddy Murphy's Law. It's always at the wrong time.
Buddy Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
Now, you could turn that gimmick off, right? I have turned it off on all my computers.
Yeah, but you got to get your updates, man. You got to get your updates.
No. See, that's how they get you. You run out and get a new iPhone every year?
Every other year.
All right. Mm-hmm. Why?
Because listen, are you one of those people that believe the government is trying to chip us?
They're trying to what us?
Put a chip in us.
Oh, I think they should put a chip.
See, I'm all about the chip. My chip's going to have Wi-Fi. My chip's going to have everything. I don't give a shit. Watch me. I hope you watch what I'm doing. I'm an entertaining motherfucker. Why wouldn't they be watching me?
I just want my chip to have the guac on it. That's all.
Well, the only chip you have, David, is the one on your shoulder. I think you're left. Boys, we've got a stacked show because guess what? In addition to AEW, NXT, and Impact Wrestling, we've got to talk a little bit of Raw and some big news coming out of WWE this week. So the next 90 minutes, actually say 82 minutes or so, are going to be action-packed, jam-packed. And as we indicated just a couple of weeks ago, each week here on the Super Show, the first show we will be talking about so that we can't be accused of being biased or unbiased. Wait a minute. We do want to be unbiased, but we can't be accused of being biased. Is we will pick the show that wins in the ratings. And gentlemen, that show again this week for the fourth week in a row was AEW Dynamite, though they lost about 109,000 viewers over prior week with 792,000 people tuning into a show that really actually didn't stand up to last week's show. So a little bit of I'm not surprised, rather, by the rating for the show this week.
What were the numbers this week? I haven't seen it yet.
The numbers, David, were AEW with 792,000 viewers and NXT with 619,000 viewers, down 134,000 over prior week.
So that's 320,000 fans disappeared in a week.
245,000 fans disappeared.
Well, if you carry the 4 and plus
nope,
the 3,
there's no way out. It's all round down, bro. There's a 5 in there, but you still got to round down.
Wow.
So while I got
that's a lot of wrestling fans.
While I got 5 on it, let's talk about AEW Dynamite and let's talk about the matches as they happen. And we'll go over each of them briefly. The opening contest was the Young Bucks going up against the Dark Order. The Dark Order again in the opening contest of Dynamite. David, a point you've made over the last several weeks is Dynamite comes out strong, hits the gate strong.
Whoa, pump the brakes. I don't think they started off strong by having the Dark Order in the first segment against the Young Bucks.
Here we go. Please explain.
Well, that's not a main event match that starts off AEW last night. I mean, they've been having main event matches kicking off Dynamite the last 3 weeks, and now you do this. Yeah, the Dark Order has had success recently, but that wasn't a match that kept my interest where I wanted to go back and forth to see what was going on the other channel.
So last week it was the Dark Order involved in the 12-man contest against 3 other tag teams. You liked that. What is souring you on Dark Order this week?
Well, because there was a whole lot of other stars involved. I mean, right now, well, let's be fair. The Young Bucks, they're one of the most over tag teams in all of wrestling right now, but they haven't done anything truly to be like must watch lately. Last week when you threw in all the other dynamics of the FTR and Omega and Adam Page and then the Young Bucks, there was a lot more kabuki shenanigans that could have happened. Last night watching that opening match, there wasn't a whole lot that was going to go on. And I'll be honest, that was a 16 to 17 minute opening match for the Dark Order. I was surprised it went that long.
Grayson and Uno representing the Dark Order. Lots of interference in this matchup. However, it would not be enough as the Dark Order loses to the Young Bucks. Shane, what did you think of the opening contest on Dynamite last night?
It didn't do a lot for me at all. You know, sometimes, a lot of times, with the Young Bucks, especially, you know, we all know I'm big fans of those guys, personally and professionally. And a lot of times their creativity allows me to overlook some of the lapses in logic. Last night, that wasn't the case, and not necessarily on them. They, you know, the match started them getting attacked before the bell. Okay, I guess rules don't mean it. If the Dark Order can attack people before the bell, why don't they do that every fucking match? You attack somebody before the bell, at least have the referee get it stopped somehow. Have the referees check on the person that got attacked. Say, are you okay to continue? We don't have to do this. You mean you don't see that in any other combat sport that somebody goes and attacks somebody before the fucking bell. It just, you right away, you take the referee out, you take the referee and the rule book and throw it out the window. Like, and I know we do that a lot with the Young Bucks, and that's kind of their thing. Okay, cool. I can take it to a degree. But then, okay, so the Dark Order, they view the Young Bucks as so much of a threat. They got to attack them before the bell, right? But then when the bell starts ringing, they start lollygagging around. And Evil Uno just kind of walking around, being all nonchalant, like, wait a minute, these guys are so, you know, there's so much of a threat. You got to attack them before the bell, but once the bell rings, now you let off the gas. And as for somebody named Evil Uno, you don't do shit that's evil. It's in your name. Your name is evil. Give me something. I mean, he's a talented guy in terms of physicality and creativity, but for a heel tag team, that's the worst heel tag team effort I've seen in a while. They did nothing to make me hate them.
Shane,
it's right there.
Shane,
I'm here.
I need your help.
All right.
You said you were a fan and friend of the Young Bucks, both personally and professionally.
Mm-hmm.
I need your help.
Yeah.
Something about the Young Bucks bothers me, and I don't know what it is. What am I missing? Now, I've been familiar with the Young Bucks since their existence. I've not been following them regularly since, of course, Dynamite launched on TNT. But as a fan of wrestling, as a fan of tag team wrestling, I understand they're unique. I understand they're different.
Do you consider yourself a traditionalist?
I do.
Okay.
A modern tradition.
They buck tradition. It's in their name. They buck tradition.
Ah.
Once again, see them, they get it. It's in the name. But when your name is evil and you do evil shit, that bothers me a lot more.
It was kind of slap happy though, right there, Shane? A little bit.
Oh my God. Does my dude get paid by the leg slap? Like, because you know, I
was using both hands.
Yeah, just slapping. He slapped his leg when he shot a guy to the ropes. I'm like, what the hell is that supposed to be?
You know what it is? They watched that, was it the Emmys or the Grammys that Ellen DeGeneres hosted like a dozen years ago?
Are we allowed to talk about Ellen? I thought she was.
Yeah, she's fine. She hasn't
She's okay. Okay, cool, because I love Ellen. So
but remember when she hosted that award show and after every segment she goes, and booty slap, and booty slap?
No,
I don't remember that either.
I don't like her that much that I'm going to watch an award show that she's hosting, but I'll take your word for it.
I didn't watch the award show because she was hosting. I watched the award show because it was the award show. Step off.
Hey, are the police at your house, Damien? I'm seeing flashing red lights. Everything okay over there?
No, you're seeing what are you seeing actually?
You're in the red light district, aren't you?
Brown chicken, brown cow.
You're just upset Miz is over my left shoulder.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Back to the show because we are under time constraints. That first match didn't do anything for me. It didn't make the Dark Order look any better. It just showed me that they're athletic. I already knew that. It was a win that we knew who was going to win. So I don't think it really elevated the Young Bucks. Nobody got elevated. It just didn't do a lot. Other than from a business standpoint, having the Young Bucks on the show is a lot better than not having the Young Bucks on the show. So I'll take that. But I just wish anybody would go to the hills and go, if you guys could get booed at all, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I want to welcome a couple of new viewers who have joined us and are commenting on the show on YouTube. Alpha Pronto, Big Philly, and also Alex Quate. Again, we're live on Fight TV, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter as well. Next up on AEW Dynamite last night was the MJF, what was it, a campaign speech? It was an address in the middle of the ring. Look, they're doing a great job of of making a parody of the presidential election without talking about it at all. And that's brilliance on their part. But how old school, you asked if I were a traditionalist, Shane, this was the most 80s of 80s segments that you could ever produce. And it was so predictable, but it did not suffer as a result of it. What did you think, Shane?
Yeah. I mean, this was tradition, and I liked it. It's funny that you call it a parody of the election. Our election is a parody of what's supposed to happen. So it's kind of a parody of a parody. Parodies. But I thought
careful, Dave voted for Hillary.
So I liked the segment. I thought the promo was great. I thought the physicality was great, strong. Moxley looked vicious. He looked, out of control. Wild card like he's supposed to be. So I thought this was a great segment. I thought everybody looked good in this.
David Hero.
I thought it was good. It wasn't as good as it was last week for me, because it just seemed like, for me, last night's AEW show, it seemed like they went to the well too many times on too many similar things throughout the evening. And that segment with MJF was another one where it's too hard for him to top last week's. And he tried, and it was good. And of course, him and Moxley had, a good segment together. I just wasn't feeling it as much as everybody else was.
Next matchup was for the TNT Championship, the completed TNT Championship belt. It was Cody defending against Scorpio Sky. Now, last week, both of you said this seemed to be a bit quick in advancement, because if you take Dark out of the equation, then it sort of just happened. Well, this match did deliver. It was a tremendous wrestling contest between two tremendous wrestlers. Scorpio Sky coming up short, Cody retaining the TNT Championship. Gentlemen, at the end, a new challenger emerges, but let's talk about the matchup between Cody and Scorpio Sky. Dave, what did you think?
You know what? Scorpio Sky definitely showed he belonged. It was a much better match for Cody than it was than what he had with Warhorse. Scorpio Sky kicking out of the Crossroads, I thought, was big for him. It helped him out. It just seemed like it lacked. First of all, having Mike Chioda as the referee is awesome. That is one of the best signings that AEW could have done for that company, because what Mike Chioda does is he brings along so much experience for these young. You're going to hate that I call them younger kids, but the younger kids that don't have as much TV time, that aren't as familiar with it, he will help them when they get lost. He can pull and point them in the right direction. So just having Mike Chioda out there is awesome. But it just felt like the match didn't have the big match feel for this reason. Cody brings out his entire family and friends. Where was Kazarian and Daniels? Why weren't they in the corner of Scorpio Sky? And I don't understand, for me, that was a big disconnect. If Scorpio Sky is getting this opportunity, where are his two best friends? They weren't there. I think, of course, having 10 or 12 baby faces around the ring, it's not great, but it just would have shown me something that, hey, they're all in this together.
They were all in it together, and what a presence the entourage of Cody, Dustin, Brandy, Flag, everything coming down for this matchup. It seemed a bit, I won't say out of place, but I'm not sure I got the full explanation as to why. Did it add to the match? No. Did it take away from the match? No. But that's all my opinion. Shane, Cody versus Scorpio Sky. Scorpio Sky gets his chance at the TNT Championship, but comes up short.
First of all, I love the entrance on both guys. Scorpio Sky kicking down that door, I thought was cool as shit. I hope
that's his normal entrance.
I've never seen it. If it is, it's slipped my attention. If it has, I haven't seen it. But I hope that it is from now on. Daniels and Kazarian not being out there, I'm okay with in a babyface versus babyface situation. I don't think that there was a threat, or at least from a storyline standpoint. There's no reason that Daniels or Kazarian should think that Cody would use outside interference. So I'm okay with that. Cody, as far as presentation, this is somebody that goes the extra mile. You look at his gear. I mean, just bringing that entourage out there. You got Goldust whispering in him. There's on there. What this looks like to me is a multi-million-dollar corporation that is invested in a champion. This is like Floyd Mayweather. That's what that reminded me of. To me, that just shows this guy's important. This guy's more important than anybody else. And you need that. I need to know who's important. Remember, there's always going to be first-time viewers. If you're a first-time viewer, you watching this, you're going, man, this guy's somebody. And then he delivers in the ring every single time. As far as match-wise, from the mechanics of it, I wish there would have been a little bit more of Scorpio Sky wrestling like the challenger. You know, get those pins early on. Let us know you want that championship. A little bit of that was missing, but that's being super as nitpicky as I can be. Other than that, I thought it was fantastic, and they did something that was interesting to me. I didn't mention this last week only because I forgot. When we were talking about Impact, on the Impact highlights, they showed Sami Callihan beating Brian Cage. Brian Cage, who's doing big things in AEW. This week on Impact, on their highlight special, they showed Eddie Edwards beating Cody Rhodes.
Yep.
He beat Cody Rhodes with a superplex. Cody Rhodes superplexed Eddie, and then Eddie hooked him with the cradle. Last night, same thing, but with Scorpio Sky. Cody Rhodes superplexed Scorpio Sky. Scorpio Sky hooked him with that cradle, but Cody kicked out. I don't know if that was accidental, if that was coincidental. Man, that's the universe talking to you. But I like that Impact did that. I like doing that. I would totally do that for them. But then the fact that Cody said, okay, well, I'm going to do that spot and then kick out. That's amazing if they did. That's next level thinking. That's going outside the box. But I love the match. Scorpio Sky didn't get hurt with this loss. This is something where I thought everybody looked great here.
You know, Shane, I don't think anybody gets hurt losing to Cody right now.
You're 100% correct.
You know,
yep.
You know, right now Cody is basically the world champion of AEW. Yep. Yes, you know, on paper it's Jon Moxley, but Cody Rhodes is the flag bearer for that company. He is the face. He is everything. He is the bloodline of AEW.
You know, I want to ask you guys this to that point you're making, David Hero, because something dawned on me last night watching AEW. And it was the presentation of Moxley, sort of in a secondary story to that of Jericho and Cassidy. And I said, wait a minute, Moxley is CM Punk as world champion in WWE. Dave, we talked about it a lot, where during his reign, he was rarely in the quote-unquote main event.
It's always Cena.
It was always Cena. And the same thing somewhat happening with Moxley. I don't have a problem with it. I didn't have a problem with it when Punk was in that same role. But what does it say? Shane, you talked about people looking important, feeling important, coming off as important. Moxley comes off as different, but does he come off as the world champion of the organization? And it doesn't feel that way. Is this good or bad? And do you agree or disagree?
I think we've talked about this on the show a couple of times. I don't think he presents himself as the world champion. I don't think, the way, slinging the belt around, all that kind of shit that they do. There's definitely things I would do better in terms of presentation as this is the guy. If you're the AEW world champion, what you're telling the rest of the world is that as a company, you think this is the best professional wrestler in the world. I don't know if that's the message I'm receiving. It's definitely not the message I'm receiving. I don't feel that's the message that's going out. But sometimes you go up and down with your challengers, so the things you're doing with MJF since Moxley wasn't having a match, keep in mind, he just had a barn burner with Darby Allin not too long ago. So it's not like he hasn't been in the mix. And it might not be in the mix every single week. This week, he didn't seem like it was that top act. This week, it wasn't. But I think if you need to take that idea and go, okay, is this how it is all the time? I don't think it is all the time, because when he was in there with Darby Allin, they put on a world-class match, and that was a pay-per-view quality match.
It was, Shane, but was it a world championship quality match?
Yeah, for sure.
You know what it is also is that everyone is more wondering, concerned who Cody's going to wrestle every week, as opposed to who Jon Moxley's challenger is. I mean, right now the buzz is Cody.
Dave, to go to one of your favorite eras when Hogan was champ. Like really, most people cared about Savage in the Intercontinental title.
Right.
You know,
and if we wanted to see it,
huh?
And if we wanted to see Hogan, we had to buy a ticket to see him. He was never on TV.
Yeah. So just how the company could do a little bit more and how they present Moxley, but at the same time, I wouldn't worry too much about him. You know, just doing a little bit on the show last night as opposed to what he did in weeks past.
You know, I got to go to the socials here, and we've got a comment, and this is a question relative to what we're talking about in this matchup between Cody and Scorpio Sky, and this comes to us from Lee Lower, who I think probably also uses Manscaped, has the question, who do you guys think will be the one to take the title from Cody? I could see it being either Darby Allin or Sammy Guevara. Dave Hero, eventually when that day comes, because it will, who takes the title, the TNT Championship, off of the endorsed Cody Rhodes?
Right now, I don't see anybody. I don't see them building up anybody to take his spot right now.
Really?
So, yeah, I really don't see it.
Really? No one's being built from these weekly championship matchups, even names that we haven't seen on a national level yet?
No, because here's why. Nobody is obsessed with that title yet. It's like it hasn't become the want, need, or desire. I mean, every week there's a new challenger, and that's awesome. But no one is truly obsessing about being the TNT heavyweight champion.
I maybe know one single person, but I feel like that's the most interesting championship right now.
Oh,
you know, so maybe no one single person because there's no build because it's week to week to week. So it's hard to say there isn't one person because that's just not the story that's happening right now. But I think the interest in that title is building every week to week to week. And I feel like whoever beats Cody, I think there's a good chance it'll be somebody out of the blue that we're not expecting. It wasn't going to be this guy, you know, but this happened to be his night. Cody might have to slip on that banana peel, y'all. That banana peel has took out a lot of us.
You know, if it's going to be anyone on the roster right now, my pick would be Jungle Boy. But, you know, other than that, right now on the current roster, I don't know who it would be.
Really? Yeah, I'm not convinced that Jungle Boy's ready either, especially after his match last night. It could be, I mean, keep in mind, you got Adam Page there, and there's going to be a time when he's going to break out. And when they split him and Kenny Omega up, I see one of those guys being a world champ and the other guy being the TNT champ. And it could be either or, but Adam Page, if you hold a gun to my head and force me to pick, hopefully it's a water gun. That way, in case I get but I'm gonna go with Adam Page as far as long term.
So interesting comments. We got Big Philly again on YouTube saying, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the first man to take the TNT championship off of Cody doesn't even work for AEW as of now. But another interesting point comes to us from Facebook, and that's
kind of what I meant a little bit earlier. When I said out of the blue.
Yeah.
Rusev. Yeah.
Daniel with two. I've never seen Daniel spelled that way. That's fantastic. Congratulations, Daniel. Thank your parents. Daniel, Daanyel, George. Although I agree with Dave, first mistake, I think Ricky Starks should win the TNT belt. I'm a big fan of his. Ricky Starks, a tremendous talent.
Yeah, I'm looking for a babyface. I think it's going to be a babyface win because
Darby Allin.
There's a little bit maybe with the entourage thing. Like I said, with being Floyd Mayweather. Sorry if I cut you off, Dave. There's a little bit of arrogance to bring out a whole damn entourage. You know what I'm saying? And Cody, and I love this about him. It's what separates him from a lot of people right now. He toes that line. He has this, and I know I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It seems like a mental struggle. Do I be this asshole or do I be, you know, the white meat baby face? You know, it seems like he goes in and out and like he's having this internal struggle with himself. So I think whoever beats Cody, I think it's going to be a big baby face moment for them. And so that's why I'm still sticking with Adam Page.
I think no matter what, it's going to be a while, right? Well, this is really the first week the actual title is defended because now it's actually completed. So I think it's going to be a while. And to your point, Dave Hero, that you've made over the last several weeks, they've made a big deal out of that open challenge and that it would be defended every week. So they've still got legs with that. And the longer it goes, the more shocking it will probably be when someone takes it off of Cody.
Well, right. And let's just, the belt's finally complete. So Cody doesn't want to lose it now. And now it looks good. So you should want to keep it.
But then they brought out the piece of shit at the end. I was like, why would they do that? And how did Brody Lee even get it?
Yeah.
That was such a weird thing. Hey, I'm not going to explain how I got it. Was that explained? Did I just miss that shit?
I didn't catch it.
You know what? No, well, you know what? Yes, it was explained. They found it at a steakhouse in Jacksonville.
Was it Ruth Chris Jericho's?
Yeah, exactly.
Well done.
Yeah, I don't know why they would even do that. Like, why bring that ugly thing back out to remind us of this ugly thing that happened?
Yeah,
so that was weird. And
we've set the cord here with the audience watching live. Jamie Weisner on Facebook asks, why wouldn't Kenny Omega win the TNT Championship from Cody? They do have history.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot going on with Kenny Omega too. Very complex character, not one dimensional. So there's, like I said, it could be him or Adam Page. Those are my picks.
All right, let's move on. Next matchup was the tag team champions, Adam Page and the aforementioned Kenny Omega, up against Jurassic Express. Of course, Marco Stunt involved in this matchup as need be. I thought it was good, wasn't too much. Jurassic Park and specifically Luchasaurus doing a great job last night, but the shining star continues to be Jungle Boy, who gets better and better and better every single week. There's so much there. There's so much there that actually isn't there yet that I'm so intrigued to see develop over the next few months. Shane, what do you say?
I say I've never seen a big man make himself seem not big as much as Luchasaurus does.
So let me ask you about that, though, Shane, because, and David and Shane, I think you've met him as well. We've all met him. He's not huge. He's not small. He's not.
Yeah, he's bigger than most guys on the roster.
And he did. And something happens out there. He grows when he gets in that ring.
That's a tremendous point. I
remember like talking to him backstage, and he's big. And then we got out in the ring because we teamed in Ring of Honor. I was like, damn, he's big as hell. Like something happens. I don't know what it is. He
has one of the most impressive bodies, physical specimens in professional wrestling right now. But relative to the others in AEW, he's huge. But in real life, he's no taller than you, Dave.
I don't remember.
I'm not.
Dave's not short. He appears 6'4", right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, maybe there was a forced perspective thing going on. He's big. He's huge. He looks amazing. He is a quote unquote big man, and he performs well as that big man.
Wait. Are we talking about me or Luchasaurus now? Because now I'm confused.
Definitely, we're talking about Luchasaurus.
Well done.
Not well done at all. Pretty medium rare, actually.
It's my favorite type. Perfect. You know what? For me, with that match, and Shane, I'll let you go. Marco Stunt is used as a prop way too much. I love Marco Stunt, but he's a baby. That's a babyface tag team. Why is he always getting involved? Yeah, and he's getting involved without even being provoked half the time.
But is it not entertaining? Is it not a good?
No, not anymore.
It takes like when he gets hit with a dragon suplex on the floor and he's up in a couple minutes. I'm annoyed. I'm like, is he actually Mighty Mouse? Is he impervious? I think he needs to be saved for don't prostitute it so much. You got to be careful about. I mean, right now they're in a lucky situation because we don't have live fans. They got to be careful because if he gets too annoying, a live crowd will turn on him, and I don't want that. I want him to keep that babyface run. This is a babyface team. I feel like the Jurassic Express. I think the company could do a little bit more for them in terms of presentation and entrance, stuff like that. This still is a cool ass gimmick, them together. Although I don't understand why he's Jungle Boy, and that never has been cleared up with me. The fact that he's with the dinosaur is cool. That is cool. Like I said earlier, I wish Luchasaurus, the first time in the ring, they do a tag team move, but his partner's doing the effective part of the move. Like the first time, this is like old school shit that you're supposed to learn first time in a year. When you get tagged into a match in a tag match, you come in, you make an impression. That's your moment. Your partner has been in the ring doing his part. When you get tagged in, you come in and you make an impression. You know, that's just how it's done. If I tagged Rosie in, I didn't tag him in for him to set up a move that I did. I said I'd set the guy up, and then Rosie does something to him so that Rosie was highlighted, or Kane was highlighted, or whoever the hell I was tagged with. You know, this is things he doesn't seem to know. And there's agents there. I'm guessing they don't seem to know it either. But he doesn't stay big. The karate shit doesn't work for me. I think, you know, Paige and Omega look good as always. But then this match, just like the Young Bucks match, we all know who was going to win. They look good doing it. I'm glad they were on the show. But, you know, I just think that part of it might be I see so much potential in Luchasaurus too, because I'm such a gimmick guy. I'm the Hurricane. Nobody loves gimmicks more than me in terms of character. I see so much potential of what I want him to be. That might be why I'm a little hard on him, and maybe I don't need to be. I'll accept that. But I see so much damn potential.
Yeah, but you're a guy, like you said, you teamed with Rosie. You teamed with Kane. Two legit giants in the ring. So you understand the size difference dynamic of that tag team.
And see, Luchasaurus doesn't have somebody like me with him either, because there was times when Rosie was trying to get small, and I was like, no, you stay big. You stay big. Like one of the best things that ever happened was there was somebody, like I felt like it was the Heartthrobs or somebody, shot Rosie off, and he ducked the clothesline. And when we came back, Vince McMahon called us over there. And Vince McMahon looked at Rosie and he goes, you don't duck. He pointed at me and he goes, he ducks. You run through him. And I said, God, yes. You know, so now I get validation from the big man, the biggest of big men. So we walk away and I said, buddy, I said, stay big. I said, I'll bump. I got the little man shit. I got it down pat. You stay big.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Luchasaurus just needs somebody like that in his ear. Be big.
Next match,
you're not going to stand out doing a standing moonsault. Everybody on that roster can do a standing moonsault.
Everybody on the roster does it.
You can't even get a job there if you don't do one. Mike Chioda had to do one backstage to be a referee. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares about your karate. There's no karate pay-per-views.
Before we move on to the next match, I want to get your thoughts on Matt Hardy's discussion about his situation with Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara, of course, coming out. The two never see each other on Dynamite last night, but the story continues, Dave Hero.
You know what? I wish they would have had a little bit more with those two, because that was the most emotional, violent aspect of last week. And I just think that they should have done more because of how that played out last week. To now almost being an afterthought, I think they could have given that more time to build more of that, where Matt Hardy is actually hunting down Sammy, as opposed to just throwing a referee into the garage door. How about you, Shane?
Well, a different way to do that, what I was hoping they would do, and this is so sometimes I should just get on the phone because I know these guys. But I wish that, like Dave said, played up how serious that was, because that was a serious injury. That was a big gash on Matt's forehead. And so that now we're talking to Matt, and you see Matt kind of having this inner dialogue, right, with himself. I want broken Matt Hardy back. I know what he's doing with the multiple personality shit. The most popular thing he's ever done, or the most interesting, was broken Matt Hardy. I wish that he was back there and we slowly get back to, because he got his brain bashed and there was a concussion or something, whatever, where he's trying to be normal Matt, but broken Matt comes out. And then that's why he goes and beats up the referee. That's just what I was hoping they were going for.
I wish Matt would have been off TV. I mean, I wish they could have done something where he wasn't there also.
They could have done that, and then later got to that. I do agree that he's back too fast. We just got a guy with 13 stitches. Hey, what? He's back on TV next week. Mm-hmm. We talk about that all the time. But at least it was in a non-physical role, as opposed to as in he didn't take any physicality. But I don't know. I won't broken Matt. That's when he was the best on the microphone. That's his best promos, and that's what I think that people sunk their teeth in the most in terms of Matt Hardy as an individual. I'm not talking about the Hardy Boys. That's just a different animal. But Matt Hardy by himself as a singular act, a singular commodity. I mean, do we all agree that Broken Matt Hardy was where he stepped away and became? I mean, he revived almost both of them. You know.
So who was it that was talking? There was an interview, and I apologize that I don't remember exactly who it was, where they talked about the tag teams that influenced them, and one of the mentions was the Hardys.
Oh, that was Private Party.
Yes, it was. You know what? You've talked, Shane, very highly about Private Party. We haven't seen them in competition in a while on AEW Dynamite, but lots of potential there as well. Yeah.
There's a lot of potential. There's a ton of potential everywhere, but you got to be careful with that word, because what potential means is you ain't done shit. I mean, that's the God's honest truth. That sometimes
you're not wrong.
That could be the kiss of death.
Quotable. What potential means is you ain't done shit.
You ain't done shit yet. That's what it means. That's the kiss of death. Sometimes when somebody goes, man, he's got so much potential. What that means is he ain't done shit yet. That's what it means. So you gotta be careful with that. But yeah, they do have a lot of potential and huge upside, I believe.
Next matchup, guys, as we spend so much time talking about AEW, and that's not a bad thing, but let's continue talking about the final two matches that would occur last night on TNT. And the next was a women's championship match, Akira Shida versus Heather Monroe. Bit bizarre here that we don't have more prominent females in the division participating in these main matchups on Dynamite, but this match, it was short, but was it sweet, Shane Helms?
It served its purpose. Now, keep in mind, there's a lot of things going on with AEW's women division. We got injuries. We got women that can't travel in because of the virus. So their women's division is a lot more handcuffed than the men's division is right now. So some of this is just by necessity. It could have been, I'm sure there's a million different ways that Heather Monroe could have been betterly debuted and built up into this match. We all know I hate champions in non-title matches, but like I say, they're handcuffed. At least we got her on the show, and she did something. A little short, sweet promo at the end. It wasn't a terrible showing by any stretch of the imagination, but it was very indie-ish, very indie-ish. And but I like the new submission, that what's her name? Sheeta did at the end, but with trapping that arm. I never quite seen that one done quite that way. Somebody else just started doing that almost exact same submission. I can't on WWE, and I forget who it was.
I loved the submission. I thought that was great. I will say this: when I saw making her AEW debut in a non-title match, I was like, "Oof, let's switch and see what's on the other channel." The only problem right now I have with the women's division is I don't know who the number one contender is for the championship. I don't know what direction they're going in, and that pay-per-view is basically 4 weeks away.
Do they rank the women as well as the men?
They do, but during that match, they weren't getting over any of the contenders. I mean, they weren't like trying to say, "Hey, this is what we're going towards."
Well, I mean, a lot of some of those contenders in that women's tag team thing, which is happening. I think on the YouTube channel, I believe, is that where the women's tag team. So they've kind of got two things going on at the same time, and maybe at the pay-per-view is where the women tag team things come to fruition. Am I wrong about that or no?
No, right. But what I'm saying is, who's going to be the contender for Shida? I mean, right now, I don't know who that's going to be.
No, I understand, but I'm saying, like, if they've only got a limited number of bodies, and they're trying to do this, probably might not have been the best of time to start the women's tag division since they're so limited personnel wise. But that might be why it's like everybody else is in the tag team tournament. That's why we get somebody we don't even know making their debut against the champion, which honestly that should just never happen.
Here's an interesting point, though. No Britt Baker last night on AEW, and where is because Karma? What's her name? Brooks. I can't remember her real name. We haven't seen her since it's been a long time. So they have a lot more people they could theoretically be using. And as you say, Shane, there might be reasons we don't know why they're not. But if you look at compared to if WWE is doing anything better right now than AEW, it's probably the women's division because Bayley and Sasha are red hot along with Asuka and Shayna Baszler as well.
Yeah, agreed.
Let's move on. Let's get to the main event. It was Orange Cassidy versus Chris Jericho. If Cassidy lost, he had to buy Chris Jericho a new jacket. And how brilliant is it that each and every week for the last 3, that jacket has gotten more and more ripe with each week that Jericho, who is just fantastic at selling you into a building. It's amazing. Even if you can't go to the building right now, his promos have been tremendous. Orange Cassidy out of the gates in this match showed us that he can perform differently. And I like that because I think we needed to see it. He delivered. He delivered a win over Chris Jericho, which is a bit surprising, at least from my standpoint. But gentlemen, this main event on Dynamite last night, David, you first. What did you think?
I thought it was flat. I didn't think it was, nearly as good as the first one. I thought there would be more emotion. I thought Jericho
Here's where Dave doesn't like Orange Cassidy.
No,
it's just his size.
No, it's had nothing to do with his size. I watched a lot of I watched a lot of small guys on TV last night on both shows, and it's just that there was no sense of urgency. I didn't feel like Jericho truly wanted to maim and cripple Orange Cassidy. I mean, it just didn't for me watching that match, I felt they underdelivered. I thought the finish was, how does Chris Jericho not kick out of that? You know what I mean? It's a guy that has taken every finish in the world. He's kicked out of everything. I've been a fan for over 40 years. I've never once heard of a mousetrap. And there it was, and that's what beats Chris Jericho last night. I wasn't a big fan of that. I thought that it just didn't meet the expectation. That's what I thought they were going to have.
Want to continue to welcome those who are watching us on our social media channels, including Fight TV, some new viewers that have joined recently, Rob Hamrick on YouTube, and continuing viewers all across the board. We've got a question, though. Jamie Weisner on Facebook asking who did better in the ratings this week. We did start the show with that. AEW getting the win with 792,000 viewers, which is why we started with them. NXT with 619,000 viewers. But Shane, let's get to your thoughts on the main event from AEW Dynamite. Orange Cassidy getting a win, which I was surprised by, over Chris Jericho.
I like the psychology of the match and the structure of the match. Mechanic wise, it wasn't as clean as what we normally see in a Jericho match. Sometimes that shit just happens. The mousetrap, which looked like it was going to be kind of an inside Spalato cradle. I don't think that happened. Cradle? Yeah, Spalato, Spladle. It's a amateur move.
It's Italian.
I have won with it and got beaten with it, as a matter of fact. And but I don't think that happened exactly the way it was designed to. But I felt like there was more they could have done with the best friends up front to create, more of a spectacle in this match. The best friends and the other
LAX
remaining members, LAX. I think that the thing Jericho did with Kyoto, the promo before, I thought the verbiage was just too out front. It was too like, give me a little subtlety here, Yeah. Don't just say, hey, I need you to cheat for me, buddy.
Yeah, and saying 18 years ago I made the call to save your job or something like that, and then now tonight I need to do the same thing. It was a bit.
I wish Jericho would have threatened Kyoto more so in the back. Like, hey, there's only one reason you're here. You might not even know that. I saved your job back then. I'm the reason you have this job. Do the right thing. Something like that. Who's my man in Pulp Fiction in the 5th? Your ass goes down. That sort of thing. But still, overall, I liked it because I like both of those talents. I didn't feel like it was flat at all. I thought there was some good stuff. Orange Cassidy's finish, the orange punch, nice work. I just felt like there was a little spots that were a little clunky. And sometimes that happens with guys, it's not ballet. Sometimes it's ugly. But I like that Orange Cassidy got a win. Jericho, no loss is going to hurt Jericho.
No, not at all.
His career, no loss is going to hurt his career. He's going to be fine. So building up a star, Orange Cassidy star continues to rise. He's going to have to continue to evolve as a performer, I think, with different things, different aspects, because there's a part of his gimmick where he's in sloth mode that takes the energy out.
Yeah.
Like this is a law of thermodynamics and physics. There's no energy.
Whoa. This is a wrestling show. Keep it.
I understand. And listen, I was invited to college when I was a kid. Sometimes it comes out. I lost a lot of IQ points since then, but every now and then I remember I used to know some shit. But there's no energy without motion. So sometimes when he gets into that little slow motion stuff, you lose that urgency. You lose when you're in there with a legend like Jericho. You go to him. You're going to him. You're on the attack the entire time. Gimmick be damned. I wrestled Jericho when I was Hurricane. Gimmick be damned. I got this in when I could. He might have got a thumbs up, but I was on the attack as much as I could. Desperation, urgency. We've talked about urgency a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They missed a little bit of that. But once we got to the finale, we started getting in that comeback and the false finishes. I thought it really came together there. And no, I like the match. So
I was just hoping that they would have started off a little bit hotter because there's so much hatred and animosity in the last couple of weeks. For me, it just felt like, okay, it's going to just be A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
I agree. And one thing, too, tell me, David, if you agree with this. When they started to do the hockey fight and Orange Cassidy won, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not buying that. Like, Chris is still a thick dude. That hockey fight, Chris wins. His dad's a hockey player. He don't lose the hockey fight. So I feel like Chris up front should have been a little bit more. When Orange Cassidy was beaten down in the beginning, I was like, I don't know if I'm buying that. But
and I was expecting a way more dastardly Chris Jericho. And for me, I didn't get that. I don't know. I mean, did they do good business? Yes. You're right. Was the psychology good? Absolutely. I just figured if I got $7,000 to lose, I'm trying to do anything I can to win that match if I'm Orange Cassidy.
Right.
Shane, I appreciate the multiple tributes you're throwing out to the Anvil tonight. I know Dave mentioned it earlier, but you can't keep your hands off that beer.
I do that all the time, though.
Your final thoughts, gentlemen, on AEW Dynamite last night.
Well, I think we've been spoiled. We've had some really great AEW shows. For me, last night's show was good. It wasn't as great as it has been. If you mentioned there was no Britt Baker, there was no Brian Cage, there was no Ricky Starks. There was a whole lot of other things we didn't see. And we did not even talk about FTR beating up Ricky Morton last night.
Yeah, great point. Great point.
You know what? Yeah. For me, that segment, Tully Blanchard stole the show.
He was good.
He was fantastic. He's like, you can all kiss each other's ass, but none of you have done nothing. And I thought that was fantastic and put everybody in check. I got
to say this, though, Dave. That segment took a turn, a hard right or left turn. It didn't subtly transition as it should have. Tully was great, but the Tully I remember was the quiet one of the Horsemen, the cerebral one of the Horsemen. And it was a bit of a departure for me.
Tully was always that guy.
That's the Tully I remember. So we all interpret it differently, but it was a bit of a departure.
You're interpreting that shit wrong.
You know what it was?
Tully was a great
power guy.
Tully was a great shit talker.
Tully was a great talker, but Tully was the one who brought logic.
You can't be a quiet one and a great talker.
You know what, though, Shane? When Damien was watching it, he had to turn the volume down so his mom and dad wouldn't get upset.
So everybody was quiet if you did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Damien, I'll say this: if it wasn't for Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard might have been a world champion.
Thank you for making my point. I appreciate it.
But you're comparing him to one of the giants. Okay,
correct.
That's I'm just saying I don't classify him as the quiet one. He was great, and this. What he was last night just reminded me of the Tully I knew from the Horsemen. Arn was the one. Arn's got a little bit nicer in his older age, which I like that. I like the fact that Arn, he's got this, he's a little bit more likable, a little bit more lovable, especially with his association with the babyface Cody. He's not white meat babyface at all, but, he's a lot more likable now than he ever was, right? And then you can see Tully just looking around. And I loved it because there was so much ass kissing with those promos. And listen, it's well deserved. I love Ricky and Robert, love the Horsemen. I love all the teams that's in there. well, there's only so much ass kissing I can take. You know, I'm just like, all right, guys, we get it. Y'all great. Let's speed this up. And I didn't know where this was going, but I was looking at Tully like, Tully looks like he's thinking what I'm thinking. Pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was so well done. And then when Tully, and then he like pointed at a orange shirt and was like, I don't even know what this is, or whatever he said like that. It was just like the facials. And see, that's what I talk about promos. Did you believe, yes or no, every word that Tully said?
110%.
Absolutely.
Every word. Absolutely. That's what it's about.
Yep. And you know what also was cool? Is Sean Spears showed up in the background looking out for his guy.
They never mentioned him. He was never mentioned, though.
Yes.
I needed to be told why he was there, even though I knew, but as a fan watching, I needed that connection. Like, who's this random guy that came out that no one ever talked about? That was a fail.
Maybe I can see that. That's argumentative. You know, you can't over explain every single thing that comes out. You know, you gotta.
I loved it. I loved it.
The only thing that was weird that if I'm Arn Anderson and I see this guy coming that might whoop my ass, I go the other way. I don't get out on the ring, and that's just positioning. And I don't know why they did that. I was like, well, he's right there. He goes, I see what's happening here, and he started walking toward the guy. And for a second, I was going, oh, is Arn going to do some shit? But but Ricky Morton throwing the punch on Tully. I got little Shane, boy, little Shane, not this little Shane. We're talking about Manscaped later. But young Shane was going crazy. I was like, yeah. And then the Ricky Morton selling that power driver. You notice he wasn't up. You notice he wasn't up 10 seconds later, acting like the shit didn't happen. So it's amazing how simple it can be.
I love how Robert just stood there like, what just happened? You know?
He got knocked over the top rope, so Robert was selling the bump. The FTR quickly enough, spike power driver, on and Tully's finish. Keep in mind that's on and Tully's finish. On Morton. Morton sells. Oh my God. He didn't just take the move, he sold the move.
Let me ask you guys this. Like devil's advocate. If you didn't know that, if you're a new viewer to AEW, you're wondering who these quote-unquote old men are in the ring, you can argue that whether or not they're wrestling fans, but that was a long time ago. Did it really connect? You may have loved it because what you know about Tully, what you know about Arn, what you know about the Rock and Roll Express. But if you were a new viewer, that casual viewer that AEW needs to grow their audience, would that have connected, or would you have been a bit confused last night?
Well, a new viewer, you ain't going to connect with anybody as a new viewer, you know. But I think listening to the promos, you get the gist. Okay, these guys were legendary. The promos from everybody, if that didn't spell out that these were legendary performers, then nothing ever will, you know. So I mean, you always, like I said, you always have to take notice that they're new viewers, but you still have to give the show for your audience, and the wrestling audience knows those guys.
Okay. David, anything to add?
No, I agree. I thought I was just amazed how the Young Bucks casually walked out to check on Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson. It's like no one rushes to the ring to save anybody anymore.
But that's
nobody gives a shit.
And go ahead, Shane.
No, I was gonna say nobody gives a shit. And I want to mention too, like I know we're gonna talk about Raw if we had time, but if you think about the promo that Ric Flair cut,
yep,
and then on AEW, the best promo of the night was Tully Blanchard.
Yep.
Weird how that happens.
Think about that. That's fascinating. Really weird, actually. And let's go to, after wrapping up AEW Dynamite, again, another hour. We have to figure out how to trim that a little bit, guys, in future weeks.
And you know what? That segment should then become sponsored by Manscaped, where if you use promo code PWR, you'll save 20%.
Oh, because we want to shave it down a little bit.
Good you need to trim. You need to trim the excess. You need to trim the fat.
You're good. Before we talk about the great T-shirts you both are wearing, I do want to go back to Raw this past Monday night, which is uncharacteristic of this show, but significant because two very big things happened. And one thing you're talking about, or you mentioned, Shane, was Randy Orton finally turning on Ric Flair, because it's been obvious for the last couple of weeks that was going to happen. But it was done in such a way that Ric Flair spoke from the heart. Randy Orton spoke from the heart. Everything was executed very carefully, very deliberately. But at the same time, I wondered, especially after the opening segment, which we'll talk about after Impact Wrestling, which is next, I wondered, was everybody in the back on break or on taking a nap? Because it was clear after Randy gave the low blow to Ric Flair that he was contemplating for quite a while, the kick to the head, which he's done to every legend. If this was such a delicate situation, if this was such a heinous situation, why didn't they treat it like Vader attacking Monsoon in 96 and send out the cavalry to stop this heinous act? It was a bit of a disconnect. It was a well-done segment, but it was a disconnect because of the gap in time of help coming for Ric Flair, which again carried over from the opening segment of the show. And Shane, you brought it up, so I'll give you the first thoughts on that.
The difference in those two things, and I'll just acknowledge that, because back then everybody loved Gorilla Monsoon. Keep in mind, for weeks and months, Ric Flair has been a heel on the show, and he's been turning on everybody, low blowing people, pissing people off in the back. So there's an argument there that anybody that could have saved him would have been like, man, the hell with him. You know, he's been a dick to me for the last couple of weeks. There's that argument. As far as the first segment, I've always hated segments where, like, if you're going to have people that can come make the save and they don't, I want to know why. That's always a glaring question. Why didn't nobody help this guy? You know? So, but at least I feel like with Flair, there's an argument because he's made so many enemies in recent weeks. You saw what he did to Christian. Christian came back. You know, Christian came back. Flair low-blowed him. Nobody saved Christian, and Flair was a part of that. If nobody saved Christian, why are they going to save Ric Flair? So, at least for me in that one aspect, and I'm reaching for that aspect. But at the same time, I'm watching like, man, nobody ever saves anybody. I told Dave this. This used to piss me off when I was the superhero there. I'm like, hey, if only there were a superhero on the show to save somebody. Anytime they did some shit like that, I'd be backstage going, hey, I'm right over here, cape and all. But no, I'll just sit back here and let this shit happen.
You can't save everybody, Shane.
Apparently can't save anybody.
The real reason, though, why nobody came to save Ric Flair was because they were all afraid of Antifa, who just threw the big cinder block through the window and overturned the. They didn't want to come out to the building. They were
my dude could barely even pick up the cinder block.
That's right.
He couldn't even throw it through the top part of the window. He had to throw it to the bottom part because it's too heavy.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that too. I mean,
nope, we're not right now. Nope, because you. I think it's. I don't think.
Okay. Then Dominic Mysterio. We have to talk about that.
Not yet either. There's a show flow here we're going to follow. We're going to talk about collar and elbow and your beautiful T-shirts right now.
Yes.
Who you're wearing and how you get it, David Hero.
I'm a ring general, like we talked about earlier. Go to PWR 360.
No,
wait, hold on. I'm completely lost here. Hot tag to Shane.
I'll put it on screen for you. Collar and elbow brand.
Even better. Yes. Collarandelbowbrand.com. Use promo code PWR360 and you can save some money. I know Shane is wearing the Wu-Tang inspired collar and elbow shirt. I'm wearing the Ring General. And hey, these shirts make your delts look great and they're comfortable. So
Shane, what do you say more of there? Wrestling makes what?
Wrestling is for the children. It's a play because Wu-Tang is for the children.
It's like We Are the World, sort of, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
No, except for it's not at all. It's fucking Wu-Tang. Damian Nelson.
We are the world. We are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make the better place for you and me.
You got the words wrong.
Yeah, I'm not so brilliant. Well, hey, but that's
a choice we're making.
Oh God, here we go.
We're saving our own lives.
It's true. We make a better day for you and me. David,
come on, Dave.
Maybe do the Lionel Richie part. Michael Jackson,
I guess.
Barbra Streisand.
Wait.
Stevie Wonder.
Oh, whoops.
I can't. We're gonna move on. It's time to talk.
Hey, Damien, hold on. Damien, give hold on. Hello? Is it me you're looking for? We don't all look alike. Even though Dave Hero can get me right.
I gotta cut you off. That is all wrong. You know the times we're in right now?
The end times, I hope, because I can't take much more of this shit.
Oh, man.
Impact Wrestling, ladies and gentlemen, this past Tuesday night on Access TV and on Fight TV, the tremendous broadcast partner that we share air with. Willie Mack opens the show up against Eric Young. The fight starts backstage. It's brought on stage, if you will, and it was quite the fantastic brawl, but Young gets the win with a pile driver over Willie Mack. David Hero, what do you say?
You know what? Eric Young, he is proving to everybody how WWE dropped the ball with him. For a guy that hasn't been active in the ring, it's like he hasn't missed a beat. He was fantastic. Him and Willie Mack had a great match. Great way to get Eric Young, up that ladder again, because Willie Mack has been a contender and a champion everywhere he's been. I thought it was a great match for both guys and really happy for Eric Young.
How about you, Shane?
Yeah. I mean, I hate there wasn't a crowd there because Eric is a guy that works off a crowd. He's old school in that aspect. But as far as what they did in the ring, they look great. And I like both these guys. I talk on Twitter immensely about times that I would watch Eric Young matches at WWE. Just like, man, I thought he was fantastic. And I just loved him. Best pile driver in the business too. Love that finish.
Well, the next segment on Impact Wrestling this past week was Wrestle House Week 3, I believe. And David Hero, you've been a huge fan of this because you like the goof and circumstance. What did you think of this continuation of that install?
You know what? I thought again, it was great. It's funny. This is an amazing vehicle to get everybody on the show to show their characters. They have all characters in that house. I think it's great how they show matches earlier. You get to hear Jeremy Borash in the background. What they're doing is they're showing that, hey, we're legit. We've had stars. We still do have stars, and we're building and growing. Wrestle House is legit my favorite part of any show on wrestling right now.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree. There were several parts of Wrestle House that popped me. There were several things Impact did throughout the night that popped me. Scott D'Amore referencing the Get Brothers as Hall and Nash.
Oh, that was fantastic. That was
pop.
fantastic.
And then that segued into Moose walking down the hallway, and there's a projector video of EC3 on him, and he's looking at it, and then it was against the wall. I was like, wow, how creative is that? And I'm speed rushing here because we're going to lose time if we don't. I think Impact is doing different things outside of the box. That there was so much about that show I like last night. But I agree with Dave 100%. Wrestle House is the best. It's the best wrestling thing of the week, including I don't care what show you're talking about. It's my favorite.
And to that point, Shane and Dave, the network has just granted us an additional 15 minutes, so we can go to 8:45 here Eastern Standard Time.
That's what I do.
Well, because the live radio, the social media score is through the. I cannot. Because the wrongness about that is so fantastic. Wait, who are you right now? Are you Lionel Richie, Stevie Wonder, or the monkey from Poltergeist?
I'm gonna just do Dave saying, "Beat it." No, you can't say that particular animal. So you're gonna get my ass in trouble. See, it's people like you that cause problems. You take it too far.
It's those kinds of people, isn't it? Yes.
Cody and Grace versus Kimberly is the next matchup, Dave.
Once again, it's like all they do is bring out Kimberly just to get beat every week. I feel bad for her. She gets signed, and she's almost like the Kurt Hawkins of Impact. You know she's not going to have a chance every time.
How can you be the Kurt Hawkins of Impact when Kurt Hawkins is on Impact?
Well, Brian Myers is on Impact, not Kurt Hawkins. You know what I mean?
I don't mind that with younger talents. You can grow. I've actually gotten away from, I don't like when they bring in these new talents that are so amazing in the first part of their career that they can beat everybody. And then when we're done with them, they go on the losing streak. That's generally not how it works. The younger parts of your career is where you struggle and you get good and then you get better and you become great. That's generally how it works.
Right.
No other sport do you just walk in on your first day and you're fighting for a championship and you're all of this type of shit. It's just it's a hot shot thing that got worked for a couple people, and now they do it with so many people. So I'm not opposed to her struggling right now, especially against a former champ and a dominant powerhouse. Like, this wasn't.
I agree. I just think they're using Kimberly. I think they're using Kimberly so much because all the other girls are on Wrestling House, and they don't want to. And they don't want to cross the streams on that.
Yeah, gotcha. Probably so. So I mean, it could be out of necessity.
Oh, look who's back! Are you
Damien,
better now?
You okay? Look how happy he is.
I was on the phone with the office.
Yeah. Apologizing for your actions.
After the show, I'm going to get Ric Flair or Jim Ross after the Ric Flair video game thing at SummerSlam a couple of years ago because I couldn't keep control of YouTube.
I don't even know what you're talking about, but all right.
When Jim Ross got fired because Ric Flair was drunk.
Yeah.
Where's the fist? Next was a no disqualification match. It was Havoc and Navia versus Tasha Steelz and Kiera Hogan. Steelz and Hogan get the win in this matchup. Shane, your thoughts?
This could have been a little bit better in a lot of different ways, but I think the talents are pretty young as far as Hogan and Steelz. But it was good for what it was. There were just certain things. I know like they were beating each other with tongs, like barbecue tongs. I'm like, everybody knows that wouldn't hurt. Little things like that bother me. And there were times I felt like they were play wrestling instead of actually performing out there. But there was also some good stuff. It wasn't all bad. It was just it was clunky in parts. I think the psychology and structure was a little off, but for these, there's a lot of room for growth in these talents. I mean, even though Jessica Havoc is the veteran there, of that particular match, there's still a lot more that she can do too. She looks great coming out. She looks like she's the monster heel, but she needs to get back to being that because there was she was kind of going down easy a couple times, and I was just like, man, come on, Jessica, beat these girls' ass. But it wasn't awful, but I feel like this one could have been better, and I know the talent is there to make it better.
David?
I absolutely agree, and you're right, Jessica Havoc. It's amazing how many of the bigger talents don't always wrestle like they're the bigger talents in the ring. It's so frustrating because when they sell that easy, it's kind of hard to believe that they're unstoppable. I was a little confused as to why I must have missed something, why it was a no DQ match, because I didn't get that vibe that they did anything in the last week or two that warranted that now, unless I missed something. But yeah, I mean, it was a good match, but it wasn't something that kept my interest the entire time just because I'm still learning and not as familiar with all the girls in that match right now.
Next up was the Good Brothers interfering or interrupting, rather, a contest that was supposed to take place between Dez and Suicide of the Rascals. You know what? They're doing great. They're a great presence. We talked a few weeks ago about the fact that all of these talents ended up spread across the different companies as opposed to all landing in AEW or all landing back in Impact. And they've been allowed to have influence over the brands more so than if they would have all been in the same place. And I think that what we've seen between Anderson and Gallows, if you will, has been fantastic over at Impact Wrestling and incredibly, sorry to use the pun here, but impactful. David, what do you think?
You know what? Everyone that has come into Impact, it's like they've been given a little bit more freedom with their creativity. And what's been great watching the Good Brothers, Anderson and Gallows, is they easily could have come in and just ran the entire company. They could have just ran over everybody. But they are doing good business by elevating the guys that they're working with and making them seem, at least to the viewer at home, that they're all on the same level and they could all win or lose at the same time. And they're not just beating people coming off of their reputation.
Yeah, and then one thing I want to note here too is you look at Luke Gallows, he's in the best shape of his career, right? He could have came in. There's quite a few talents on multiple shows that, for me, they're not in the shape they should be. And these are people that haven't realized their potential. And you got a guy like Luke Gallows that's made the money. He had 2 successful WWE runs. He had a New Japan run. He could be coasted, but he comes in looking the best he's ever been. That should light a fire under people's ass. Because I all the time hear about these talents talking about how how hard they're working and busting their ass. And then I look at them, they don't look like they've been working hard in the gym. Their work isn't that good in the ring. So I'm not sure where it is they're busting ass at.
Maybe in their, there was a new We Are the World a couple of years ago for Haiti.
Okay.
We can't talk about Haiti right now either.
Yeah, I hate that.
The main event on Impact this past Tuesday.
You like that, Eddie?
The world champion Eddie Edwards defending against Brian Myers, formerly Kurt Hawkins of WWE fame. He came up short in his efforts to become champion on Impact Wrestling. Eddie Edwards getting the win, but a good showing for Myers. David Hero, what did you think?
9 times out of 10, I will complain about bringing in the former WWE guy and putting him in that title match right away. But this was a great way to do it because it's a way of showcasing that Brian Myers is more than just the guy that never got more than 3 minutes in the ring on Raw or even main event for most part. It showed how talented he is, how good he is, and him and Eddie Edwards had a good competitive match. Yes, he came up short, as he should, in his debut matchup against the TNA Impact World Heavyweight Champion. But you know what? I thought it was a good, solid way to show that Brian Myers is a player and not just Zack Ryder's sidekick.
Shane, how about you?
I had conflicting emotions on this because I can't get over the fact that he's the guy that lost 800 matches in a row. And you're going to bring him in.
That many?
Yeah.
It was some ridiculous number. 300 matches in a row. And you're going to bring him in his first match. He gets a shot at the Impact World Championship and takes the champ to the limit. I'm not sure about the message that sends, in terms of storytelling. I love Brian Myers. I know he's way better than losing 300 times. And I get it. That's the gimmick, but that was a stupid gimmick. Anybody that's a creator on a wrestling show right now, losing streaks never work. They always suck. 100% of the time they suck.
Even for Barry Horowitz?
Yes. It's just, once you get the win, fine. You're still going to be the guy that lost 8 million times. I don't give a shit. Unless you're going to go from there to the world title, what does it matter?
I'll converse you on this, Shane. Or I'll continue. I'll continue on this. 1, 2, 3 Kid. Now, it wasn't a long losing streak, but when he beat Razor Ramon, no one expected it because he, was a new guy, had lost whatever matches he had.
But that was an underdog streak. That was what I was talking about in terms of when I was mentioning Kimberly. When you got somebody new, you bring it in, they're young, and you slowly build them up the ladder. He started there. Brian Myers was a world tag team champion at one time who went on a losing streak. Completely different scenario that they built with those two. Fair enough. I don't mind him. I don't mind him coming in and being a threat and slowly getting to Eddie Edwards. I just don't know how you like the TNT championship is one thing, but your main championship, anybody can just walk in off the street and get a shot at it. If so, I feel like it should be somebody that hasn't lost 300 matches in a row. I know what Brian Myers is capable of. I know how good he is. He is good, but that isn't the story we've been telling for years, and he was a part of that story.
I think the only way that how they're justifying it is they're saying that Kurt Hawkins doesn't exist, and they're trying to make you know what I mean. But here's the problem: Kurt Hawkins existed on the biggest wrestling platform in the history of professional wrestling. So everyone
Kurt Hawkins didn't exist and evolve. That's one thing, but in WWE he did. And so, the good thing is that at least, he broke the losing streak. They had a good run as the World Tag Team Champions. Did I ever tell you guys my ideas on why he would have that losing streak?
No.
I think so.
I had 2 ideas. One is that he was into S&M.
Rihanna?
No, he liked getting beat. And so then all the guys would find out about it and be like, what? And then we would have all that conflict. They wouldn't know what to do. I might need to beat this guy's ass, but he's enjoying it. But I still got to win the match. That could have been some entertaining shit. The other idea I pitch is that.
Hold on, Shane. Before the second idea, it pains me to have to do this, but as the broadcast journalist of this program, I need you to. there may be some members of our audience who are not familiar with what the term S&M means.
There are some people, I am not one of them. They might be. Not sure. But there are people that exist that enjoy pain. They're
like the powers of pain?
Them too. Fuji.
Well, yeah.
Don't talk about, you can't bring Fuji up without, some extracurriculars. But just how their brain is wired, pain translates to pleasure in their brain, and they enjoy it.
And wait, is that like that? Is that like that Rihanna song? Nah, 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 come on.
Exactly. That's what I was hinting at.
Yeah, Rihanna.
Yeah. Rihanna, chains and whips excite me kind of thing. Yeah, that's what it was.
So anyway, let's get this shit back on.
I think Damian screen throws.
I hope so. Forever. But so that was one idea, was the S&M gimmick. And then the other idea was that he'd been secretly betting on himself to lose. And so that so he was teaming with Zach at the time, and Zach would slowly come up to him. And I had actually this one kind of structured out a little bit. It's like, hey man, why don't we ever hang out at your house? And Kurt would be like, no man, I'm redecorating and stuff like that. We'll never let him come over. Well, then Zach would sneak over and find out that he moved to a different house. And then when he gets to this house, it's huge, it's this mansion, and find out he's secretly loaded, and nobody knows why. Comes to find out he'd been betting on himself to lose all of these matches. And then when it come time at WrestleMania, when they won the tag titles, then he built the house that they would win, and then he finally applied himself. And now he's this super rich, almost $1 million man type character, mixed with Pete Rose gimmick that had been betting on himself to lose, which would explain the losing streak.
And Pete Rose would have been the guy he was making the wagers with, which would have been fantastic.
Well, that, and then you get Kane to tombstone Pete Rose again. And I don't know, they didn't go for it, but I was like, I have no idea. I just still think that was fantastic. Other than we got a guy on our roster who lost 300 times, because I mentioned in a meeting, I was like, in UFC, you lose 3 times and you're gone. We got a guy that's lost 300, and he's a superstar. As a fan, if I'm watching this, I'm going, why?
Yeah.
Why is that happening? That makes no sense. But
gentlemen, before we move on to talk about a unique situation on Raw this past Monday night, before we get to NXT, your overall thoughts, your closing thoughts on Impact Wrestling this past Tuesday night.
For me, Impact Wrestling every week has been putting out some good quality professional wrestling. I've been a big fan.
Shane?
Yeah. I think they're running really strong right now.
All right. Want to remind everybody that this show is also available in podcast form, and we are #1 in Finland. Is that still the case, Shane? Are we #1 in Finland still?
I'll have to check.
Let's just say we are. Let's
yes.
take Iceland and Greenland, too. We're #1 in all 3 of those. That's the Pro Wrestling Report PrimeTime Super Show. Nope. PrimeTime with Hurricane Helms. Available on wherever you listen to podcasts, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, everywhere. And you can take this show on the go with you, and you can listen to it. Actually, you can listen to it while you are preparing yourself for the next person that will see your Netherlands, because we're #1 there as well. And that is while you're manscaping. Manscaped.com, 20% off your order. And you know what? We can pull the veil back. I'm not one to reveal my private life on this show, but I did just earlier today use Manscaped products for the first time ever. And I tell you, I'm sitting comfortably right now.
Were you uncomfortable yesterday?
Last week I was. I wasn't using my Manscaped products, and I mean the light helps. The smooth vibration technology, the easy,
easy. Hey. It's Manscaped. It's Manscaped, right? Or did you get something else in the mail?
He got that flashlight. That comes next week. We're supposed to do that advertisement.
I cannot. You two.
You confuse the advertisement.
You two are ridiculous tonight. I did not receive any kind of lighted device except for my Manscaped device, which does have an LED light on it that allows me to properly groom myself down south to prepare myself to show it to whoever wants to see it, including myself. And I'm just now happy I can speak openly about my manscaping challenges of the past and how they've all gone away now that I've got the waterproof, water-resistant lighted Manscaped device, which I saved 20% on by going to manscaped.com and entering promo code PWR at checkout. There.
Boom. There you have it.
Exactly. Yeah. I got it. All my friends got it. You know, once the sponsorship came in, it's like, you got to try this. This is the best thing ever. You know, guys, we don't go European style no more. Women don't like that. I don't care what your woman says. She don't want to hurt your feelings. You know, but she wants to see what's going on. So you need to take care of your business. You ain't got to go bald like Damien's head, but you just need to take care of it. Put a guard on it. You know what I'm saying? You get a little mohawk action. You know, whatever you want to do.
But there are benefits. There are benefits if you are. How do I phrase this? There are benefits if you need to show her more to manscaping yourself.
Yep. Yeah. If you want to add to the illusion, is what Damien said. See, I wear spandex. I don't have to add to the illusion. They all know. What I add to is the presentation. You know what I'm saying? I'm all about presentation. I don't want you to go on. I don't want any woman I'm with to go on a safari. That's not what we're here for.
All of a sudden, this morning I wake up and I get my emails, and it shows there was a purchase made yesterday. Manscaped.com. I'm like, Cal? He's like, oh, don't worry. He goes, I used the promo code. I'm like, oh, fantastic. I go, it's like 20%.
Exactly. So got anybody listening to this, manscaped.com, promo code PWR, get yourself 20% off of everything. And also it helps us continue to do the show. Boom. Moving on.
And it helps us continue to go back as far as this past Monday night's WWE Raw. We talked about Ric Flair and Randy Orton. Ric Flair, the subject of an attack by Randy Orton, by which Drew McIntyre came out entirely too late to be angry about the fact that Randy Orton was attacking Ric Flair. Earlier in the night, a similar situation would develop. It was a contract signing. Dominic Mysterio signing not only his WWE contract, but his contract for a match against Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. Let's not lose sight of the fact that this has gotten there too quickly, by the way. But I understand, but I don't, and I have a challenge with it. But at the end of that segment, a kendo stick that Dominic brought down to the ring with him would be used against him for not 5, not 10, not 15, not 20, not 25, but 30 brutal lashes. This boy got his ass beat, excuse my language, as his initiation on WWE Raw, and the entire building of the Performance Center, nobody thought that this was too big an attack, too much of an attack for a young kid, and was willing to help him. That's the only problem I had with it, but what it did do for me was prove to me that this boy is a man who can take a beating and may have an opportunity to survive the challenge of Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. Shane, tell me how I'm wrong.
You're not. There's not one thing you said that I'm going to disagree with. That was super uncomfortable. It was designed to be uncomfortable. I don't know if they expected it to be that uncomfortable, but once it started happening, I don't know if Ray was there. If I would have been there and that was my kid, I couldn't have sat there. I mean, that's just me. I don't know what they paid Dominic for that, but I hope it was substantial. I hope Ray got some kind of compensation for that, because you lay one finger on my son's head and I would take a brick and bash your damn head in. And so that's just me, as I'm a different father. I don't know.
Well, Shane,
I don't know what the price tag. I don't know what the price tag would have been. If Dominic was cool with it, there are times as a father you got to step back and let your son be a man. If Dominic was cool with it, then that is what it is. I just hope he was compensated fairly, because anybody did that shit to me, much less my son. We fighting in the back, and I would have beat this shit out of Seth and Buddy. So
here's the question, and this is. I'll admit going into an unfair comparison, so why am I even making it? But I think it needs to be made for discussion points. Dark Side of the Ring, New Jack. The stories of New Jack when he attacked, the guy in ECW. And granted, that went much further than this did. But fundamentally, it's the same thing, isn't it? This superstar, this established superstar, went way further than he probably should have with a man who just signed a contract, if you will, to be a WWE superstar. It was uncomfortable. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel right, but it progressed the story. So at the end of the day, I guess it told a story. But Dave, your son this weekend on Ohio Valley Wrestling will be making his in-ring wrestling debut against Jay Bradley. Shane, you make the very valid point that if that were your
I might rather take the Canes in that situation.
You make the valid point that if that was your son, the reaction would have been a lot different. Now that's real life, that's wrestling life. But hey, did they sell it? Did they give me a reason to think that Dominic is legitimate in his efforts against Shane? Yes. Did they make it uncomfortable? Yes. Did they go too far? I'm not sure.
The difference is he's going to get some payback. In comparison to your New Jack example, that guy wasn't going to get no payback. True. We know Dominic's going to get some payback. True. And he better swing. He better swing that shit like Ray swung. If you saw Ray swing that chair on Brock Lesnar and a whole locker room of people that were going crazy for it, cheering for him, Seth's got it coming. And Seth,
but Dominic lit Seth up the week prior with that kendo stick. He was swinging for the fences.
Not as bad. Thinking,
well, not 30 times, no. You know what it is? The whole problem, you know what? Maybe if that was just the only doom and gloom we were watching currently on WWE TV, maybe it wouldn't be so hard to watch. But when you have Retribution doing what they're doing, when you have Randy Orton punting Ric Flair in the head, when you have the Fiend Bray Wyatt trying to put his fingers down Alexa Bliss's throat, when you're drowning Braun Strowman in a swamp, when there's all of that other dark evilness going on, it just makes what they did with Dominic even that much worse. For me, it was to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm about to turn the channel because this is way too uncomfortable. That kid took an ass whooping. You know his body was traumatized by 30 shots. You got to worry about, severing a spleen or a kidney or whatever else because they were not. I mean, every one of those shots left a mark.
Shane, I want to ask you this. I've never taken a shot from a kendo stick. Dave, I don't know if you ever have. Shane, I assume you have from your tenure in the wrestling business. I know that, bamboo is the hardest the hardest wood in the world. But
Manscaped, 20% PWR.
There's a theme. There's a theme on tonight's show. But how does it really feel to get hit with those kendo sticks? Because it sounds like it stings and hurts.
Well, yeah, it does. Well, what could happen though is because the bamboo is slit. You understand? There's cuts down it.
Yeah.
So sometimes, especially as after a couple hits, what can happen sometimes is as you swing in the stick, the bamboo opens. And when it hits your back, it closes on you and pinches you like a Singapore cane. When it rips the flesh off of you, that's what's happening is that the bamboo opens, hits your back, and then closes on you as it shreds away. It's very painful. It could, there's only been a couple times I've seen something that bad. Tommy Dreamer took it real bad in ECW. And as recently in my tenure in Ring of Honor, which was 2018, Bubba Ray, and this is on ringofhonor.com. You can go find it. Bubba Ray beat Flip Gordon. It was hard for me to watch. Yeah. It was like 10, 15. I don't know how many it was. But I know I was like, Jesus Christ. I couldn't take it. So I felt bad either way. It's rough. But like I say, I just hope there was some compensation. I'm sure in a week or two he's fine. I'm sure everybody here listening probably got their ass whooped for free. So if you throw a couple $100,000 in there, I'll take a Singapore game.
David?
But that's what we do. That's what this crazy business is different than anything else. What we put our bodies through. So anybody nobody is allowed to disrespect Dominic anymore from this point.
No,
he paid all his dues at once. His dues are paid in full. I don't care if he wrestles for another 40 years. His dues are paid in full right now.
And we're forgetting that when he really made his TV debut, Brock Lesnar beat his ass all around the ring also.
Beat the shit out of him, yeah.
Yeah, so he's done nothing but taken ass whoopings from Brock Lesnar and now Seth Rollins. man, I hope he has the match of his early career on that first night with Seth Rollins, because he needs to. I mean, it needs to be a fight. They need to tell a story. You know that he's going to be all battered up like the Spirit of '76 when he makes his way. He better not be on Raw next week. I hope he is home.
Well, let me ask you guys this. We'll be the booker for SummerSlam and in due time here, but it feels as if the only retribution for this beating is if Dominic somehow or another sneaks out a win against Seth Rollins at the Amway Center in Orlando. So we've learned today that that apparently is where the event will be happening with no fans in attendance. But there has to be payback, if you will, for that beating, that assault that occurred against Dominic this past Monday night on Raw.
Well, he can get payback without winning. That doesn't necessarily have to, but I think he needs to beat Seth's ass.
Absolutely.
Can he? Is it believable that he would now after Monday?
I mean, if he had a brick.
Well, and here's the thing. Those other guys have bricks. You can probably borrow one of theirs.
Yeah, just go join Retribution. He's actually bigger than all of them anyway. He can actually pick the bricks up.
We still have to get to NXT, which we'll cover quickly in a second here. But I do want to get your thoughts first, you, Shane, on Retribution, which we've seen now over the course of the last week and a half, if you will, from WWE. I say you first, Shane, because I saw it on SmackDown last Friday or last Monday on Raw, whenever it was, when they first debuted, and it didn't bother me at all. I'm like, all right, cool, new faction, whatever. And then SmackDown, they sort of showed the replays, showed videos. They came out with chainsaws or whatever, and I'm like, not sure. This past Monday on Raw, it definitely defined itself for me. But what are your thoughts, Shane, on Retribution in this current world being introduced in WWE?
I don't care about anything about it in the current world. I mean, the guys wear hoodies. People have wore hoodies for fucking decades. That's just what it is. If I'm a rob an ATM, I'm gonna put on a fucking hoodie. That's just how it is. That's the disguise of somebody that's going to do some bad shit. So I just feel like if you're trying to present it as these are real outsiders like they were at first, you're not going to give them a promo package. You're not going to replay it on SmackDown. Another thing, we talk about guys not coming out to save Ric Flair, but if you got some outsiders, so if you have fans rush the ring, you think the guys out of the back don't come out there and beat their ass? Especially when they're the size of the damn munchkins? Like, I don't know what was supposed to happen, but if I was supposed to be intimidated, I was not. If I was supposed to fear any fear, I felt none of that. I saw a bunch of little tiny people and what seemed to be a really small chainsaw. I mean, I guess if it was a real chainsaw, I would still be running, but it looked like a Tonka toy chainsaw. I'm like, is this even a real chainsaw? It's just, I wasn't intimidated by this group at all. And I don't know. It doesn't mean that it's dead in the water. It doesn't mean it can't get better. It doesn't mean that there could be some players that haven't been put on the board yet. When you're playing chess, remember, you use the pawns first. You don't just bring the damn king and queen out blazing right out of the gate. So there could be more to the story, but in terms of first impressions, the first impression was I just thought it looked goofy. They look too much like the ninjas, and those ninjas look stupid too. So
now it's Tozawa now. It sort of fits.
I guess, but it's you've seen Mortal Kombat, right? They got cool ass ninjas. They don't have Party City outfits that look like they cost $20. It's a $1 billion corporation.
You're talking about Mortal Kombat, not Mortal Kombat Annihilation, the sequel, which is one of the worst movies ever made, but still fantastic.
Yeah, not that movie.
Hey,
but I don't mind ninjas, but it's 2020. Give me 2020.
But they are karate guys, and you don't like karate guys. But
karate is some bullshit. No, that's ninjutsu.
Do you think Retribution is going to have the testicular fortitude to go and bum rush Raw Underground?
I wish Retribution would fight the ninjas. And everybody just knocks each other out, and nobody acknowledges it ever again.
I'm telling you right now, if they make that a cinematic match, you and I are going to have heat, because I do not want to sit through that.
I wanted to happen on Wrestle House.
Let me throw two things at you guys for consideration. First, a comment from a viewer, Rob Hamrick. Pardon the pun, but right after SummerSlam is WWE, their pay-per-view is Payback. I believe it's scheduled for a week after SummerSlam. So maybe again, Dave, you've made the point many a time how the answer is sometimes right in front of us. Maybe it is. Maybe Dominic doesn't have that retribution, doesn't have that payback at SummerSlam, but maybe both groups, Retribution and Dominic, not a group but a person, does show that a week following at this Tuesday in Texas on pay-per-view. But another point that need to be made is that there is a recent comment by a man who likes to stir the pot, CM Punk, who we mentioned earlier in this program, but talked about something to the effect of he likes Retribution. There has to be a payoff to this, right? There has to be a payoff. I'm not saying it's that.
No, there should be.
Guys, to speculate.
There should be a payoff, but with WWE, there doesn't have to be. They would drop some shit in a heartbeat.
Maybe Retribution are the ones that blew up Vince's limo.
Could be.
No, they weren't born then.
Who did it better? Nexus, Retribution? Quick answer, Dave.
Nexus in a heartbeat.
Nexus in a heartbeat.
All right, guys, we got to talk about NXT before we run out of time here. And we'd appreciate the comments from all of you joining us on socials across YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And also, of course, joining us here live on Fight TV. The episode of NXT this past Wednesday night, last night, opened up very strong. Karrion Kross versus Danny Burch is the match. And it's less important what happened in that matchup than what happened to Keith Lee, who ended up leaving in an ambulance. We haven't seen a fireball since, well, a very long time if you exclude Pitbull.
Shane, Jerry Lawler. Yeah.
Shane, your thoughts on this segment?
And after that fireball, I hope I never see another one again. That could have been, that's in the conversation for one of the worst ones ever. It wasn't done well. I don't understand why that was needed. Karrion Kross, as intimidating as he is, like, does he have magic? Does him or the girl have magic powers? Like, how did the fireball even come about? It was just, if that's your gimmick, if you're the Fiend or the Undertaker, okay, I didn't get from anything previously that was Karrion Kross's gimmick, that he had some kind of magic trick up his sleeve. I just didn't like it. I thought the fireball, the delivery, the execution of it was terrible. The overselling by Keith was terrible.
Oh, God, that was terrible.
It was just brutal. I thought the match with Burch was great. Like,
you know what?
The beatdown of Burch was great. That made Karrion Kross look like a killer. The magic trick made him look hokey. It went from killer to hokey, and it didn't do anything for me.
Dominic Mysterio didn't sell as much as Big Keith Lee did.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But you know what? I did like the Karrion Kross match with Burch, because it showed that Burch got a little bit over on Karrion Kross.
Yeah.
But then we saw that Kross can switch gears.
Yeah.
And when he switches to that next gear, look out! Lights out.
And that visual of when he was in that crossface and he just turned and looked at him, like, that was so perfectly shot from a camera perspective, and great facials by Karrion Kross. That's one of his best features anyway. One of the best aspects to his skill set. And just that did so much. Like, that was perfect. But just like when they did the fireball, and it would just, maybe if like the fireball, you've seen them ones Jerry Lawler used to throw. They would wrap around your head, Eddie Gilbert. If it would have something like that, maybe, but just
the only fireball that was worse was when Harvey Wippleman threw one in Hogan's face against Yokozuna. That's the only.
Thank you, Dave. I was trying to find the worst one ever, and I think that is indeed it. Where they couldn't get it lit forever. Yeah. I think there was one in WCW, by the way, not just when Elizabeth handcuffed Hogan and didn't handcuff him, but there was a fireball incident in WCW which was painful on Nitro one week. I can't remember the specific.
That was. Yeah.
So the next up, and thanks for your comments on that matchup, Killian Dane and Drake Maverick. It was a no contract finish.
You know what? Poor Drake. Those two guys could have had a great match. They both got screwed because, first of all, they spent more time taking Keith Lee to the ambulance, and then the next thing you know, out comes the Undisputed Era. You had a guy that a month ago was the most talked about guy on NXT and Drake Maverick, and now he's been a complete afterthought. I just thought they could put that in any other match but that one.
Yeah, I agree. It shit on him a little bit. I did like that they were trying to keep us updated on the Keith Lee situation. Like, it wasn't like, I don't know, that just added the authenticity to it. I felt like, hey, I know we had this show planned, but man, this shit happened. So we're going to try to keep both of these things going on. I like that. I like the authenticity to that. But just, it did take away from Drake. It didn't do anything for Drake or Killian, and they both worked their asses off. So to get their entrances taken away, to get the focus of their match taken away, and then they both get jumped by Undisputed Era, who, are they supposed to be the heels in the thing with Pat McAfee? Are we supposed to hate Pat McAfee? Am I supposed to hate everybody in the segment? I don't know what's going on.
And here's the other thing: you got kicked in the head. Why are you not out there with a neck brace or whatever else, walking around like you're fine?
Yeah, I got kicked by an NFL punter.
Yes,
with rings.
So let me ask you guys this: you talk about this Keith Lee situation, you talk about retribution, and one thing we talked about last week on this broadcast on Fight TV was the sterility of the WWE presentation and how it's difficult to suspend disbelief because they, I guess,
nobody sells.
They try too hard. Nobody sells, whatever it may be. So let's say this fireball thing happened in, I know I'm going back a little bit, but let's say this fireball thing happened in AEW, or a retribution style angle happened in AEW. Would we be more willing to accept it because AEW is new, or would it be the same thing?
I wouldn't. I'm gauging it under the same microscope. Actually, I might give WWE a heavier microscope because they've done it longer, maybe. Mm-hmm. But if something's stupid, I call it stupid. I don't think.
But Jericho could throw a fireball in the face of Orange Cassidy right now, and we'd love it.
If the fireball looked good. If the fireball looked good, and if it didn't, if Ortiz didn't kiss a book and the fireball magically appeared. My part is this fireball magically appeared, and we don't like what the hell happened there.
Oh, it's like a pop-up book. Remember, those cards or the books you used to read in school?
Yeah, I wish it might as well. What should have happened is he opened it and a big boxing glove came out, hit him right in the face, and you just hear boing pop over the screen. That's how hokey it was. It was hokey-ish. How do you make fire hokey?
Especially
that was the heat spot. That was the heat spot of the whole show right there.
Yeah, it had heat with me.
Guys, we're in overtime here on the Super Show, and that's totally fine. Great discussion so far tonight. Next matchup, Tyler Breeze, Santos Escobar. Escobar getting the win via pinfall over Breeze. Shane, you seem to have enjoyed this match.
I just like Santos Escobar. Man, he's a great heel. There hasn't been a heel in the cruiserweight division like Santos Escobar since Gregory Helms. He reminds me of me. And now I know I hate him. I think he's great. I love the presentation. The only thing that's weird is he's trying to carry a torch for Lucha Libre. Like, we don't care. Don't carry a torch. Don't give me any reason to like you. He's great as a heel. Stick with that. And so I'm a big fan of Santos Escobar.
David Harrow.
I thought it was a great match. Tyler Breeze, you know what? He's been around forever, and he's always having good matches. And you know what? It was great. He was the perfect guy for Santos Escobar because Escobar is now beating guys that have a little bit more name value as someone that's been around the way Breeze has. It was well done.
Yep.
Well, the show would continue with Indy Hartwell submitting to Mia Yim. David, your thoughts on this match?
You know what? This was one of the matches I was going back and forth on when I saw it was Mia Yim. I'm like, this should be a pretty easy match for her, and it was.
Shane?
Yeah, it was fine. Mia Yim got a good win. Match wasn't bad. I thought there was spots where, what's her name again? The other girl looked a little slow.
Indy Hartwell.
I like to see her hit the ropes, a little bit better, from a mechanic standpoint. But the match was fine. This is one of the parts, though. One of the things, like when you're in a relationship with somebody in a real life, like they were. Then it became a part of Mia's story that her boyfriend, Keith Lee, is injured. Like, I don't give a shit about any of that, so I'd rather Mia do her own thing, so that was odd, but at the same time, you can't ignore it. You try to bring in that realism to it. But it was good. It served its purpose. Mia got a win. And both the girls look pretty good.
Bronson Reed gets a pinfall victory over Damian Priest. Shane Helms.
I like both these guys. Keep running with Bronson. There's something there. I still would like to see him get more vicious, get more Vader-esque. Get that guy in the corner and beat the shit out of him. it's weird they kind of did the roll-up pin. Like, if I'm Priest, I'd rather just get that splash. I'd rather you beat me with your finish than that roll-up. But, I mean, maybe they're saving it for something. I don't know. But it was good. I thought both those guys looked really good.
David? I was surprised they had that match now and not save it for down the road, because right now Bronson Reed is rolling, and not that it's going to hurt Damian Priest, but it may have hurt him a little bit because he hasn't been able to win the bigger matches yet against the bigger guys. So I might have waited to have that match a few weeks down the road.
Mercedes Martinez and Aaliyah get a victory over Casey Catanzaro and Caden Carter. David, what did you think of this matchup on NXT?
It was a good match to set up what the other business was with Shotzi and Rhea Ripley, which is what it was. It was get the heels over to have the baby faces come down to create something.
Shotzi with some police involvement in her, her lost items.
Yep.
You know what's amazing about the entire thing is, who would have thought Robert Stone could heal that quickly? I mean, I've been in a boot for like 17 months at one point. He was in it for maybe 17 hours and he's already healed. I can't believe it.
Here's Robert Stone's greatest moment today. Today on Twitter, God, I don't remember. Somebody put out a worked promo on Twitter. And he responded with the typical, "We want to promote you. I'm an Instagram influencer."
Yeah.
Yes.
He did that on like 20 different things today.
It was so fantastic. And knowing him as you guys do as well, I'm like, my God, this is brilliant.
Because David Arquette bought my mask off of Pro Wrestling Tees, my COVID mask.
Yeah.
So David on his own accord put a picture of it, wearing it, put me over. And I just like, oh, thank you, David. You're the man. And underneath that, here comes Robert Stone, David Arquette, just so you know. I was just like, look at this guy. He's great. I'm disappointed he wasn't in the boot. I would like to see him go a little Iron Mike Sharpish and be injured for a little while.
Even maybe Cowboy Bob.
If you could get out of the boot, but go to something, I would like to see that. I'm gonna tell you, Mercedes her entrance looks cool as shit with the mask and the Dracula like gimmick she has. Cape looking thing that looks cool. I want to see her get a little bit more comfortable with her physicality. One thing in this match that drove me nuts was that the baby faces did an RKO, and I was just like, how does anybody that cashes a check that has that WWE on it, and the main guy is Randy Orton, how do you go out there and do a cutter?
To be fair, it was a diamond. It was a diamond cutter, not the RKO.
Oh my God, it just pisses me off. But I got past that, and that was a good match, and a lot of good business done in terms of furthering that story.
So the next match, the final match, the main event of NXT last night was a North American Championship qualifier, and Shane, I'll let you talk about the other participant in this matchup. But originally booked, it was going to be Kushida versus
Cameron Grimes.
Thank you. One more time, Kushida was going to take on
Cameron Grimes.
Yet there would be a third participant added to that matchup. It would be a three-way dance. All participants, never mind, that's a bad joke. Velveteen Dream returns for first time in a long time to WWE. A lot of people talking about that. He's not been convicted of anything. That's my take on it, by the way. But it would be a three-way match, a championship qualifier. Kushida, Cameron Grimes, Velveteen Dream. David Hero, that smirk on your face tells me you want to tell the world what you think of the return of Velveteen
I can't
Dream.
Because I'll get me in trouble. But you know what? Cameron Grimes stole the show. I mean,
he got the win.
He's the underdog, but he's the guy that every week is the guy that has the best match on NXT. And he did it again. It was creative. It was a good finish because I'm sure everyone penciled in Velveteen Dream to win that match, and it didn't happen. And it was Cameron Grimes, sneaky, dastardly, gets the big victory, and he is the best utility player to put in that ladder match.
Who?
At Cameron Grimes. He's the best utility player to put in that match because
Shane's talking about.
What?
I want to see you try, Dave. Give him his propers.
How do you say his name?
Cameron Grimes.
Even better. Even better. Yeah, I agree with Dave. That was match of the week by far. And triple threats can be tricky sometimes. Sometimes you got a lot of dead space when two guys are doing something. One guy's all sometimes off selling, doing nothing, and sometimes has to take creative liberties with selling. But I didn't see that last night. I thought all three guys were active. The pace of that match was just incredible. Like I said, no real dead space in the match at all. And all three guys looked good. And I don't know. Velveteen looked incredible. I don't know how long he's been gone in terms of being in that style of match. I think the last time I saw him, I can't even remember what the last match I saw him was.
It was on the pay-per-view when he had that
back lot brawl match.
Yeah.
I was thinking, but I wasn't sure. And this was nothing like that. So to come in and for that time away and to look that crisp, and he's in there with two. Kushida and Cameron Grimes. These are two technical guys.
Kushida and who?
Cameron Grimes.
Thank you.
To sit there, and go toe to toe. I thought that match was great, and I didn't know who was going to win. It could have been either one of those guys. You kind of felt like Velveteen was going to get the nod, and but they love Kushida. Cameron Grimes has taken a couple losses recently, so like maybe they're saving him for something else. But the way that finish came about, just out of the blue, sneaky, but at the same time devastating. My favorite finish of the week and my favorite match. So that was super well done.
Gentlemen, to summarize your final thoughts as we have 2 minutes left in the broadcast and one more thing to get to on NXT this past Wednesday night, David Hero.
I thought it was the better of the two shows on Wednesday night.
That's a statement, Shane Helms.
I thought overall the whole week was a little underwhelming compared to past weeks. But that's only compared to past weeks, both shows. But go ahead.
You can't hit a home run or even a triple every week, though, especially when you're always up at bat.
But still, there was a lot of good business done on both shows and a lot of things I liked. And of course, a lot of stuff I liked on Impact Wrestling. So still another really good week, but they can't all be grand slams. But this was still a good week.
Unfortunately, just under 1 minute remains, but I want to give time to talk about the passing of a wrestling legend this past week, that of Kamala, who is no longer with us. From our childhood, Kamala, the Ugandan giant with kimchi and many others, was always a force to be reckoned with in wrestling. Real quick, gentlemen, and again, I apologize. We don't have enough time. We have to stay under 2 hours. But your thoughts on the passing of Kamala, Shane Helms?
Absolute legend. He's the guy that got The Undertaker over for me when, for me at the time, The Undertaker was just another character. He got over because of Kamala, a dedication and commitment to a character that I can truly respect and appreciate. And without a doubt, an absolute legend and a nice human being.
David Hero.
Yeah. For me, one of the sweetest guys I've ever worked with. He was always professional, always good business, a sweetheart. Nobody will ever say he wasn't. And absolutely, from his matches with Andre, Hogan, Undertaker, even George the Animal Steel, it's on YouTube, always an entertaining guy to watch in the ring.
An unfortunate loss in professional wrestling, but a career and a legacy that we will all remember for the rest of our lives. Kamala, rest in peace, the Ugandan giant. Gentlemen, thank you very much. And all of you who watched, thank you so much for joining us here on the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Super Show! It replays Saturday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be back again next Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take the podcast with you on the go. Listen to it again to just see how inappropriate both Dave and Shane were at several
times. Listen.
Stop. I can't look at you. You can't do that. We're out of time. For Shane Helms, the star of the show, and that one, David Hero. You're that way, this way. I'm Damian Nelson saying thank you so much for joining us here on Fight TV. We'll see you again Saturday night and then again next week.